All right, and I'll play the trailer right now.
What is a woman? Can you tell me that? Well, you're at the Women's March. You must have some idea. Please, if one person could tell me what a woman is.
You are not here for women. We ask you to leave.
What is that?
I'm a husband. I'm a father of 4. I host a talk show. I give speeches. I write books. I like to make sense of things.
A woman is not anything in particular.
There is not one particular thing.
It could be many things to many people.
Some women have penises, right? Some men have vaginas.
I like scented candles. I've watched Sex and the City.
Yeah,
How do I know if I'm a woman?
that's a great question.
You're not a scientist. You're not a gender studies major.
No,
How do you know that you're a man?
I guess because I got a dick.
Can a man become a woman?
I'm not a woman, so I can't really answer that.
Women only know what women are.
Are you a cat?
No.
Can you tell me what a cat is? You want to tell us what a woman is?
I'm a biological woman that medically transitioned to appear like a male. I will never be a man.
And so they go on the internet and they're told that all of their problems will be solved if they become a man.
So you worry that there could be a sort of social contagion element of this?
A teeny tiny bit, maybe.
It got me at 42. Your child doesn't have a chance.
And you're affirming it with hormones that have never been used in this way.
Puberty blockers, which are completely reversible.
Completely reversible.
One of the drugs used is Lupron, right? Which has actually been used to chemically castrate sex offenders.
You know what? I'm not sure that we should continue with this interview.
So you don't want to talk about the drugs that you give to kids, or?
How can they be removing the healthy breasts of 15-year-old girls?
There are masculine girls. There are feminine boys. What are we gonna do about that? Carve them up?
How can this whole thing be happening, Matt?
I wanted us to have a safe place to be able to talk about this.
Part of me wants to ask why you care so much.
I care about the truth. I care about children. I care about the women who are having their opportunities stolen from them.
Is it transphobic to tell the truth?
The interview's over. Let's turn off the cameras.
Excuse me,
Well, they're fair. I just wanted to know, what is a woman?
and you're not gonna find out.
Based on what I'm saying, would you ever want to move to America?
They say no, never.
All right. What's up, everybody? We are live. Welcome to another session of the Gobble Club Podcast. You guys already know my name is Will. I'm the host of this show, the #1 Polynesian podcast in the world. Let's get it, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed that trailer. What is a woman? You guys already know the topic we're going to discuss tonight, and it relates to the topic we're discussing. So I hope you guys are locked in your seats. We're going to have a great show for you guys. As you guys can see, we have a full panel. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're watching this for the very first time, thank you so much for tuning in. I can see the viewership going up right now. And of course, all my subscribers out there, thank you so much for all your love and support. And like I said, if you support and love the content, smash and press that like, subscribe button real quick. Don't forget to do a quick disclaimer for everybody out there under the age of 18.
This content is not suitable for the children under the age of 18 without adult supervision. Please be advised.
Please be advised. Please be advised. If you're under the age of 18, just let you guys know. Also, don't forget, we do have the live chat. We appreciate you guys always let me know. I see you guys already on the live chat already. I see you, Tuibo from Facebook. Say good evening, everyone. Shout out to you, Tuibo. Thank you for tuning in. And I already see you, Daniela TLA. Yeah, I know. We have a great show we're going to discuss tonight. Thank you guys so much for tuning in already. But let's definitely get that live chat popping. We have a very important topic, a controversial topic, but it's a must topic that we need to discuss, especially here in modern society. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Don't forget, this is a public show. So if you're watching this for the very first time, if you're not familiar with the content, I always invite people to be part of the live podcast. I will post on the YouTube chat on YouTube. So if you're watching this from Facebook, if you're watching this from Twitch, you have to come to YouTube. I'm gonna pin it to the top of the screen, click on it, and you can be part of the conversation. So, and especially if you're watching this right now and you're part of the LGBTQ community, I would love to add you to the discussion because I believe I want to hear your opinion, to your perspective, add to this conversation. I try to invite some people from that community. Unfortunately, I'm not one of the most popular people right now. to all my haters out there.
How dare you?
Anyways, today, I do want to invite everybody, whether you agree or disagree, be part of this conversation, especially if you're part of the LGBTQ community or if you are trans or you did transition. I would love to hear your perspective. All of us have different opinions about this. I have my views, but I also want to extend it to hear the other side, other people's views as well, especially with that community. And let's have a conversation. Thank you so much for everybody out there. But nevertheless, don't forget the super chat donations. Always appreciate you guys donating financially to my channel. As you guys always, every single donation will be reinvested into my content and give you guys better quality content. Of course, I'm launching my podcast studio. But at the end of this year, we're gonna have real life studio interview podcast in studio. So if you love the content and you want to drop a donation, if you have a specific question or topic you guys want to ask us directly so we can discuss on the panel, or if you have a specific question to one of the guests to reply to you directly live on the show, ask us through a super chat donation. I'll make it a priority. I'll put it at the top of the screen, read out your question, and give you a shout out. But nevertheless, thank you so much for you guys. And shout out first and foremost, so just want to say thank you so much for all the panel guest ladies tonight, taking the time to be here and part of the show and entertain and have this conversation that we're gonna have tonight, especially with this controversial topic. Shout out to the ladies real quick. But nevertheless, ladies, if you can go ahead and do some quick intros, introductions real quick for everybody in the live chat. I'll start with you, Rokilla. Go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Hi, I'm Rokilla. My government name is Rosie. Rokilla is my handle on TikTok. I grew up in Samoa. I currently live in San Jose, and I can't wait to learn more about each and every single one of you. And thank you so much, Will, for having me.
No worries. Always a blessing. And always a blessing to have you on here. Thank you so much being here again this week. I'll pass it on to you, Lonnie. Lonnie, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Hi, I'm Lonnie. I'm originally from the Bay Island of Hawaii, but I am a resident of Alaska, but I'm currently back in Hawaii visiting family. So yeah, thanks for having me again, Will.
No worries, Lonnie. Thank you so much for being on here, and I know you got some strong views tonight, so I'm definitely excited to hear what you think about tonight. We're gonna have a good discussion. Thank you so much, Lonnie. Pass it to you, Underground Roads. Go ahead and introduce yourself real quick. You're probably familiar with her from past podcasts, but she's back, y'all. She's back on the podcast.
Right.
Go ahead.
You can call me Rhodes. So people call me Rhodes. I am on TikTok under Underground Roads. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook. Raised in Laie, Hawaii, North Shore, but spend a lot of times overseas and back in the U.S. now for some time.
All right, no worries. Thank you so much, Rhodes, for being here. Excited to have you again and have some conversations tonight. And last but not least, Natasha, good to see you. Yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Hi everybody, Natasha. I am also I'm a regular. It's also been a while for me as well, so I'm excited. I'm excited and I'm a little nervous because I feel like this is a pretty heavy topic. But again, excited just to talk with everyone and congregate. So I'm excited.
No worries. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you so much for being on here. And yeah, let's get right into it. You guys already know the topic at hand. Should kids be allowed to choose their gender and transition? So obviously, if you guys are tuning in this right now, you guys saw the trailer. What as a woman? It's pretty much a trailer, pretty much discussing this topic. It's going viral right now on social media, on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. And if you're not from America, right now in America, I know specifically in California, should they pass a law? Governor Newsom did writing the law. I think it's called California AB 1184, which allows children 12 and up to be able to choose their gender and receive therapy from a gender therapy reaffirming therapists to choose their gender without the parental consent from the parents, and also to be able to use their parents' healthcare insurance to pay for it. And the healthcare insurance is prohibited to inform the parents to know of the decision of their child, and also to see it on their bill. I will post a link on the live chat so you guys can read it. You guys can check it out on the website, so you guys can see my source. But this is a law that was passed in California, but I don't know about the other states. But that's what led me to the discussion, because I believe that children should not have the right to choose their own gender, because it's a big decision they're gonna make that's gonna be permanent. And I think as children, they're not fully developed yet to understand the consequences of their decisions. But we're gonna allow children to make those decisions. We don't even allow children to have the choice to drink alcohol and do drugs, but we're gonna give them the choice to permanently alter their body and their gender, and when they don't really understand what they're really doing. So that's just my piece, but I would love to hear your opinions from all you ladies. Some ladies are single, some of you ladies have children already, so I think it's a must discussion that's going to be had because it affects all of us. It affects all of us, especially if you live here in California. And there are some states that are thinking about adopting the same legislation, especially the more liberal blue states. So I'm open up the topic for you ladies real quick. What's your what do you think about the topic? Should kids be allowed to choose their gender and transition on their own choice without the consent of their parents, and without, of course, the health insurance companies informing you about their choice as well, and even though you are paying for it as well? I'll start with you, Lonnie. What do you think, Lonnie?
Wow, just pounce on me. Okay. No, I don't think that children should be able to choose their gender or be allowed to have gender reassignment surgery or even start the process. As a mother of 3 kids, my oldest is going to be 12 next month. I'll be honest, my daughter, she can barely decide like what she wants to wear for school every day, let alone. And so I definitely don't think that kids are at that mental capacity to even make those big type of decisions. And I also feel like nowadays parents, I think the reasons why this is such a big issue with, why this is a huge topic and why that bill in California, I couldn't understand did it get passed already, or is it like on the legislative floor and
signed into law last year?
Oh, okay. So, yeah. Oh, damn. So, I think the reason why a lot of people are so stuck on this kind of topic, about kids choosing their gender, and I think it's because a lot of parents nowadays, they want to be their kids' friends first and their parents second. And like I understand as a parent, like you want to be supportive, and if your kid is part of the LGBTQ community, you want to support them. But I think allowing your child to make such a huge monumental decision that involves not only, medication, but also surgery is a huge no-no. There's debate among parents now if your child has ADHD and if your child should be on drugs. Not drugs, but medication for ADHD. Like there's, there are some parents that don't even believe in that. So it's like, why would you allow your child to choose a gender? So yeah.
All right, yeah, no worries. Thank you for sharing that, Lonnie. Let me pass to you to Natasha. Natasha, what do you think?
Oh man. I was hoping to be like at least third at the minimum. So I think for myself, I have lived through like different seasons in my life of like figuring myself out, right? And very unapologetically, because I feel like in order for people to become very comfortable in their own skin, and to learn like like the value of like self-love and caring, like what that looks like, you have to allow yourself to go through everything, even the uncomfortable parts. In terms of the topic specifically at hand, I am very much a person that I believe that people are, when within the LGBT community, it's not an issue of choice. I believe that you're born with it. And the reason for me, one, I'm not someone to judge anybody or ever make anyone feel inferior to me or less sufficient to me. And that pertains even to gender. I'm very respectful. I do think that society and the generations over the years have like really made it, I feel like everyone's a little more soft and sensitive, right? Where everything has a label, everything has a box. And then, it's like if you are not educated and up with the times, then like you can possibly offend someone and like not even know that you have. In terms of children being able to make that decision, I would, it's sticky for me because I'm not someone like, for example, I don't have kids, but like I've helped to raise my nephews and my niece. And I've never been someone to make, I've never like tried to curve them to be a certain way. I've taught them like that they are to be as free as they want to be in front of me. And like, whatever the case may be, like if my nephews exhibit, a little more feminine behavior, whatever, like I don't write that off as anything because they are just that they are kids. I do also very much believe though, that there are children that, they're genuinely not comfortable within their own skin and that they feel in their chest that they're not what they're living in, and so at that point, I think that rather than giving that right for like a child to decide or, whatever the case may be, that I think that because the gender reassignment process it's a lengthy process. It's not like you just like go to the doctor and say, I want to do this. Like, like there's psychological stuff involved. So, and there's evaluations that are done prior to someone even being like approved to do that. So I think that at that point, really for me personally, because I am someone who's very like for the kids, I want to have conversations. I want to have understanding because in order for them to, talk to things or maybe something happened that like I may not know about, I want to be able to speak to those things, and really kind of get to the root of, is it that you genuinely feel that way or is it because you've been teased or is it, you know what I mean? Like just getting to the bottom of it before telling them that they can't be who maybe they absolutely, want to be. I mean, I'm not thinking, I just, for me, it correlates or aligns with like, with, with gay people. Like, do you think that you were born that way? Like, I want to honor that and not devalue that. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Okay. All right. No worries. Thank you for sharing that, Natasha. I'll pass it on to you, Rokila. What do you think?
So when I found out what the topic was, I thought about like I didn't know anything, specifically about this. I have a 5-year-old, and so me trying to think about like, okay, we've had discussions where we've gone into the store and he's picked up, a girl toy or what's considered a girl toy, and I say, do you want it? And he say, yeah. And I'll say, well, what's cool about it? Why do you want it? And he'll say something in order to like, it ends up being like a victim of some sort of, oh, I can use it. And it ends up being like more like a boy thing. I'm so sorry. I'm going off because when it comes to picking a child's gender, if they say like if they were born a certain gender and they say they feel like they're different from the gender that they were born, me personally, I don't agree. I'm sorry, I didn't start off and say yes or no. So no, I don't. But if, say, for instance, my child says, I don't like trucks, I don't like cars, I had to think about it and break it down to 3 things. Capability. If they're capable of saying I don't, if they're capable of identifying their feelings, okay, I will go from there. Wants. Do they want to be the different, gender? And then the need. Is it something that they probably like, it bothers the way that they interact at school. It bothers the way that they, see themselves in the mirror type thing. If I was in that position, I would get before the age of 12. No, you can do that after when you're an adult, probably. And I'm just keeping an open mind in this modern, on this land in the state of California where I live. Being Polynesian, we already have a third gender, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? All throughout the Pacific. So it's not anything that's uncommon to us in a like more religious or cultural aspect. Kind of sometimes religion, but it's more acceptable now. And there's a culture behind it now. You know, they have a. I don't know if I'm going off topic, but as far as children, my child, me personally, I would say no. And thank you so much.
Of course. All right. Thank you for sharing that, Rokila. I'll pass on to you, Rhodes, Underground Rhodes. Go ahead.
I don't agree with it. They're too young. I feel developmental wise, if teenagers are still learning how to reason, right, that I don't feel that they're at that stage where they're able to determine that they're ready. Does that make sense to transition immediately? My question is, if we are consenting to the age, this age level for them to choose that, right? It opens up another door. So if we're going to give the children at the age of 12 the right to choose what their gender is, can they choose also the age of consent when it comes to getting into relationship with older adults? That is another door that's going to open. Does that make sense? So I understand there's the educational component, and there's so much support around them receiving therapy and counseling, right, to get them to that stage. I don't know if there's any research or studies to show that they can reverse it if they decide that, hey, this is no longer what I want, right? Even us as adults, we still struggle with making decisions. I respect the choices that people make. We all have been given the agency to choose. But at the age of 12, I'm just thinking, is this a phase? Yes, we acknowledge their feelings. We acknowledge that, right? And we see there is a construct of this culture. But my concerns is, if we have adults can't even figure out our emotional intelligence, what level we're at, right? How can a 12-year-old figure that out?
Yeah, you made a great point, Rose. I want to ask you, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but do you believe that there is a hidden agenda under this law, that this is the initial phase where they just that they want to pass this law because you think that there's an ulterior motive to bring the consent down to 12? I think
it opens it. It opens the door. It's the next step.
Yeah, I believe that
recognize that pedophilia is also a culture.
Mm-hmm.
Pedophilia, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is also an identity. So that's where I kind of draw the line, because one thing started opening all these other doors. Yeah. And what I see is, it's okay for an adult, and we're making those choices as adults. I respect that. But when it comes to the children, right, that's a sensitive topic. Because am I going to be accountable at the end of the day if something happens to the child. I mean, they're already facing a lot of things, bullying in school, right? For just being a different shade of a certain tone, right? And then this is like an added thing on top of it. You know, that's more psychological, added things onto their plate. And so I don't agree with this bill.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that, Rhodes. I do see some of you guys in the live comments. I know TL said, Daniela said, the prefrontal cortex is not fully developed up until the age of 25. The portion of the human brain that is responsible for interpreting reality and decision making. Yeah, that's facts. Exactly. Like, why are we allowing kids to make adult decisions? Obviously, they are not aware of what they're doing. They don't know the full consequences of the decisions. Tui Po said, when you disrupt the biological factor with the child, that punishes them even more. They become even more confused. The child will not be fully accepted as a different gender. Parenting should not be dictated by the government at all. Facts. Yeah, I think the government is interfering with our rights, especially for the parents. I want to ask you this, especially for the women who do have children. For me, the reason why I'm passionate about this topic and why I want to talk about this, as controversial it is, and a lot of people today getting canceled about it, I don't care, because I am very concerned about the future, especially with the children. And I agree with Rhodes. I do believe there's a hidden agenda to normalize pedophilia. I remember I was watching this. There's actually a group out there that it's a group that says it's a pedophilia group that if I find the link, I'll post it on the live chat. Because we can identify whatever gender that we have in modern society, what the pedophilia people are saying. I identify as a young kid. I'm a grown adult on the outside. I identify as a kid on the inside, and that's why I like children. So that's, like I said, that's opening up the door for sexual identity. People can identify as an older adult or as a younger adult. Male, female, binary. Just all these different, just all different things. So, and that's my concern. And that's why I want to talk about this. But for me, it's like you guys mentioned, the kids haven't fully developed. The kids, right now, kids can have sex. They can't drink alcohol. They can't do drugs. It's common sense, right? And if anybody try to offer your child like drugs or alcohol, they'll be outraged, right? They'll be outraged. You as a parent will be upset. So what I want to ask you, ladies, real quick, especially you guys with children, why do you think there's not a big outrage right now? Because, why do you think people are just, just accept it? It is what it is. And I know there are some people right now that are trying to fight it, but I am kind of concerned how this is a really big deal. This law got passed. It's not, of course, there's not a lot of media coverage to cover it. But if, I think a lot of people should be concerned. And, I think this is a good opportunity for us to talk about it, bring awareness, not only people that's watching this around right now, but also within our community, because it's going to affect the Pacific Islander community as well. But as a parent, you guys, the law that's passed in California, I know Rhodes, you guys, they can use their health insurance to pay for the procedure, and the health insurance company are prohibited to inform you, even though you're paying for it as a holder for the policy. Mm-hmm. So I just want to ask the parents real quick, like, number one, why do you think there's not a big outrage, and and number two is like how, as a parent, if you think, I think for me, I see it as abuse. Because if you offer drugs to a kid, if you offered alcohol to a kid, I think you're abusing it. It's like child abuse. And I think for me, it's like allowing kids to do this. I think it's some kind of form of child abuse. That's why I think it's a really big deal for me. But I want to ask you as a parent, is it how do you feel about it? Because I don't really see a big outrage. People are just, okay, this happens. But if you guys understand where is this going, and especially what Rhodes said, this is going to open the door for, if kids could choose a gender at 12, they can choose who they want to have sex with. That's going to be a possibility. We know what, as a parent, why do you feel like a lot of people today don't have a big concern, or they don't feel upset about and just letting this happen? I'll start with you, Lonnie. What do you think?
Thank you. I just wanted to press on something that was said. Sorry, I don't mean to backtrack, but it's something Natasha said about how the process for gender reassignment surgery is a long process. Like, it doesn't just happen overnight. I understand that, but then I think people also, you need to remember that children's minds are malleable. So if you put them in a therapeutic setting or a therapy setting where the therapist's main goal is to get this child or to figure out if this child wants to be a different gender, the therapist is going to be saying things to that child that makes that child believe, oh, well, then if my therapist is saying it's okay, then this is okay. You know what I mean?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Have you participated in therapy? I'm just curious.
Yes,
okay,
I have.
Yeah. I guess the reason I'm asking is I don't think that, because I also do as well. And I just don't think that a therapist is not supposed to, they're not unbiased.
They're neutral.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they are neutral, but my point is though, yeah, they're supposed to be neutral. But I think even as people of color, when we go to a therapist that's not a Pacific Islander person, they're gonna say things that don't always align to our beliefs because they're not Pacific Islander.
No,
You know
I mean,
what
no, right, and you're 100% correct. I mean, in terms of like, yeah, I do. I mean, obviously, like for me, for example, like my therapist is a BIPOC, so like I knew very well that I needed to seek out someone that was a person of color because there are cultural that like I know that I can't sit with like a Palangi therapist and they're gonna identify or understand like my loyalty to my family and how that has in some way hindered my ability to like live my life independently for myself because they don't understand that there are, those kinds of sacrifices and the whole like concept of like, yes, they're supposed to and I get it. I think for me, my biggest thing is that I never want to be someone, which is why I made the point earlier about being sensitive and labels. I never want to be someone that's going to put someone in a box. So if I have a child of the age of 12 that comes to me and says that this is something that's on their radar, my first instinct isn't to discredit their emotion. And I think for me,
and I understand that. But I'm saying
sorry, totally not coming for you. Like I just, for me, it's elaborating because I feel like I said earlier, the reason why this topic does make me nervous is because it is a very heavy thing. And I think that for within our PI community, it's not that it doesn't exist. It's that these people have to live in the closet because they are not supported. They're not given that neutral space to speak on it. And so that's why for me, I'm very much a person of like, if I get someone that approaches me or a child that, maybe makes a comment or whatever, like I'm not going to, I know what it's like to be discredited or to be not acknowledged because I'm a child. I know what it's like to have emotions and feel some type of way. And I think that what I was trying to say is I think that there's a way to, gaining understanding and maintaining that line of communication should be the priority when you have children that are bringing that to the table because there's issues of like if a child feels like they can't talk to their own people, their parents, their family members or whatever, then they're stuck feeling isolated and feeling ousted. And again, I grew up in a predominantly Palangi community. They did not know what Samoa was. And so for me, I know again what it's like to feel that kind of sense of isolation. But I just, for me, and I also just with the whole like, I get it. Sometimes people are supposed to do things and sometimes they don't do it. But I choose not to live with that mentality of all the time, like of assuming that someone's gonna like has an ulterior motive because personal opinion, that's a really miserable way to live. But when you're always
Can I speak though? Because I didn't get to finish my point. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. But so like my son is 5 and my son likes to do things that are like a girl. He likes to say that he's a girl. This is my own son. He's 5 years old and he likes to tell me, Mommy, I'm a girl. Mommy, I like to wear dresses. I love my son. And if my son is 18 and he wants to transition into a woman, then that is his choice. But I will always love my son for who he is and what he wants to be. But at the end of the day, my son is still a child. My daughter, who's 11, is still a child. And I feel like no matter what therapeutic setting you put your child in, if you keep talking to your child about the same thing, I think all parents can understand this. If you talk to your child about the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, it's going to get stuck in their head, whether they voice it or whether they don't voice it. If you tell a child every single day, you're stupid, you're stupid, you're stupid, you're stupid, and the child doesn't tell them, and the child doesn't tell people, oh, my mom calls me stupid, but that's in their head all the time because that's all they're being told. When the child is 21 and they're outside the house, what is the biggest issue? Yeah, when they go to therapist. Yeah, when I was 10, my mom used to always tell me I was stupid. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying that we shouldn't honor our kids' feelings or honor how they feel about if that's who they are. But what I am saying is that when you put therapists, sometimes they're not always neutral. In therapy, myself, my therapist wasn't always neutral. And I've had therapists who are both Pacific Islander and who are not Pacific Islander. And also as a parent, I know parents who take their children into therapy and the therapist can't talk to the therapist can't talk to the parent about what they're talking to their child about. So if I put my kid in therapy and the therapy is based on whether my child is transgender or not, how as a parent am I supposed to know what is the conversation going on between my child and the therapist if the therapist isn't informing me or can't tell me because of medical disclosure? What about those situations? And that's when I'm speaking as a parent. I'm not saying that as parents we need to closet our children. No, I think we should love and accept our queer children regardless of what they believe in. But I also believe as parents, that doesn't mean that we have to put them in therapy at age 5, 7, 6, 7, or age 12 just because they come home to me and tell me, oh, mom, I think I'm a girl. My daughter has a classmate and she's 11 that tells me that she's pansexual. She's 11 years old. She should be more worried about what she's studying in school than whether she's pansexual or not. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, yes, we should, and like I'm going to constantly say this, yes, we should love our children for who they are and what they are, regardless of what's against our beliefs or not or whatever. But that doesn't mean that we have to put them and put them in therapy for them to try to figure it out. That's what I was trying to say. And I didn't mean to jump off on what you're saying, but as a parent, it's hard to determine those things. And as a parent, you can't always trust therapists because some therapists you just can't trust at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so that's the point of view I was trying to point. It's not that we shouldn't or we should box our children in those little things. No, but just because my child says that they feel a certain way doesn't mean that she has to see a therapist. Doesn't mean that I have to take them and see if they're going to be transgendered. That's what I was trying. That was my main point before, no offense, before you started to come for me, because that's how I felt, you know. But sorry, Tanya, what was the question?
No, not. But like I said, this is a great conversation. Like I said, this is the type of conversation that we need to have. You know, we obviously have different point of views, but all our views that we say here tonight is gonna be reflected within society. A lot of people think the same way. But it's great that we could be here to have this discussion because, like I said, this is a big issue. Natasha, did you want to respond back to anything that Lani?
So I just wanted to apologize. I very much understand that my energy is very masculine and assertive, and I genuinely am just I'm very passionate about acceptance for everyone. And it wasn't at all, I think for me too, like just my initial response when the question was originally posed, I didn't fully answer it. And like, that's why for me, like, I'm an advocate for the communication piece being the absolute strongest, because I agree that a child should not be able to make that decision for themselves. But I also don't want it to be that, you know, that they're just kind of swept to the wayside, right? Because I feel like that's something that more often than not happens in general. I mean, and I think also too, in being someone who I do have, you know, transgender friends, I have gay friends and family. I dated women for a good amount of my life. Like it is a little bit personal to me, I guess, because like the scrutiny that they have to go through and stuff like, and I guess my biggest thing is it becomes controversial for me because I am a woman of God. Like I ride on my faith completely and entirely. Like God is at the forefront of everything that I say. And so say and do like what I believe, it just leads who I am. And I feel like sometimes like the pop back at me is like, oh, well, you know, like that I basically contradicting my faith. But I just, for me and how I was raised, like there's just like, you just love everyone and accept everyone. So I apologize. I wasn't trying to like be aggressive. I just am insanely like passionate about, you know, people. And I think that too, it's like one of those things that like I said, in our culture, like it's frowned upon, you know, like if you're not who like the culture said you're supposed to be. And like again, I know what it feels like to be left out and to feel isolated. And based on my own experiences, I never want to not only impede that on someone, but I won't be someone who will encourage it. So yeah, again, I apologize. Totally nothing. Like I wasn't trying to comfort that, and I apologize. That's what I give off.
No
It's
worries,
okay.
no
Thank
worries.
you.
No, I love the conversation, ladies. All right. Yeah, let me pass it on. I do have some comments real quick. I think TL said Natasha, they're supposed to be neutral. The film by Walsh, the documentary we saw earlier, proves that a lot of them were no longer neutral. Yeah, I mean that's the issue. Is like if we remove the consent from the parent from an adult and let the kid 100% decide it, then we have to 100% trust the therapist. But then, as we know, there's a lot of therapists out there that have their own agendas, beliefs, political beliefs, biases. So that's why I think it's important to include an adult to make sure that another perspective. Shout out to Copley, first time on the live chat. Thank you so much for watching this right now. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate you being here for the first time. Children are too young to make these kind of decisions because transitioning, specifically gender reassignment, is irreversible. I've come across patients who regretted it but had to live with it. No, there's a lot of studies out there, a lot of cases out there where people that transition at a very young age and they regret it. But like I said, it's permanent. It's permanent. So and then also it's usually those people who do regret it, they're tied to the taking their life away and moving into the next phase. And of course, Tui Bo said, just because your child wants something doesn't mean they need it. You're enabling the child's emotion over logical reasoning. It falls on the stronghold and discipline of the parents. Thank you so much for sharing, Tui Bo. Appreciate you guys on the live chat. Always appreciate you guys' perspective and adding to the conversation. Don't forget, I did post the public link on the live chat. If you're tuning in right now, I pinned it to the top of the screen on the YouTube live chat. So if you guys want to come on and add on to the conversation and have this discussion, I really want to add you guys real quick. But let me pass it on to you guys. Underground Roads, anything you want to add on to what the conversation between Natasha and Lonnie, and also like anything you want to add on? And as I mentioned before, how do you feel about the Underground Roads? When as a parent, that you can't, the company is required by law. They don't have to inform you. So as a parent, you have no, there's no transparency for you to know what's going on with your kid. And I just want to hear your perspective on that one. What do you think about that as a parent? And also anything you want to add on based on what Lonnie and Natasha shared? Go ahead, Underground Roads.
I think there's like a HIPAA violation, right? There's HIPAA laws in place. But I'm not sure about whether the parents have given that right to consent for something like that. Because usually when they do have a plan in place for an individual, there's usually some kind of consent from the parent. So I'm not aware of that when it comes to
what is the HIPAA? For everybody that don't know what HIPAA is.
Privacy laws.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but how do you feel about that as a parent? Knowing that children, they don't have to inform you. They can make the decision. They can hide it from you. The medical professionals can hide it from you. Like how do you really feel about that as a parent?
I feel as a parent that I will be accountable for anything that that child makes.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because I should have been the parent. Am I really protecting my child and supporting my child, even though they're so young, too young to make these choices? Does that make sense? I don't know if I, at the end of the day, I don't want my child to come back and say to me, well, this is, you should have told me about this, and have that regret and come back to me. And here I am as a parent stuck with like, I should have known better. I'm the adult, right? Yeah, I mean, I know a few people, and I think of the nature versus nurture that have their children growing up, determining already what they want to be. And at the end of the day, I really can't say much because that's, That's a individual choice, and that's what that parent, chose for that child.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like a law such as this, like I said, it opens up other doors. Yeah, and so for what I see right now in society, the children are being attacked on all fronts. We've just, at what point do we stand up and advocate for their well-being, right? Their future. That's just my take. I mean, I have so many questions because, is it a sense of belonging, right? This social construct that we create, is it because our children are looking for a connection because this is how they're feeling to a group? Because does that make sense? Their feelings are, at what point do we say, hey, at what point, let's just say, like you said before, it kind of takes away the role of the parent.
Yeah.
It strips us of that, right? Our say, we just birth our children and then give them to the system, and then the system determines what the children decide what they want to do. It's like Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
But those are just, I have so many thoughts about it, but I just, I'm thinking of the developmental stages of the children. Are they able to comprehend those things? Cognitively process, does that make sense? I mean, reasoning, right? As teenagers, I think of the teenage brain as an electric circuit board, and it's still firing and trying to make those connections. And these are teenagers. They're not 12-year-olds yet, right? They're not 12-year-olds. And then the hormones kick in, right?
Yeah.
So,
No, I think I thank you for sharing that, Rhodes. No, I think I agree. I understand where Natasha was going. But I think Lonnie made. I understand, but I agree with Lonnie. A lot of times kids, they're too young to understand what they're thinking, what they're experiencing. So a lot of times kids are just confused, right? Kids are just confused of what's going on with their life. There's just so many. I mean, I have a lot of girls in my family that were very tomboyish, were acting like guys when they were young, but then as they got older, become a woman, they became more feminine and became more interested in women. And I know a lot of guys that were very feminine, girly girl as a young kid, as a boy. We used to make fun of them, as founders. But then when they turn older, they're like, they're very masculine and they're men. But then, like I said, we all go through phases in life, especially in our development stage as a child. And I think Lonnie said, just because the child says something, it doesn't really, that's why the parent is there. We have gone through the experience of life, and we need to guide them. And the difference between us, our generation, our parents' generation, Pacific Islanders, our parents didn't communicate, right? So we can communicate. So if a child has a problem with their identity, with their sexuality, somebody's bullying them, somebody's calling them, hey, you're too girl, you look like a little girl as a boy, you look like a man as a girl, and they come to you, and they think they're a boy and a girl. They can come to you for advice because you have the experience to understand what they went through and kind of guide them, and not fully have them. Whatever you say goes. Then what that kind of defeats the purpose of being a parent. That's why we you're there. So and that's just for me, just listening from both sides, from Natasha and Lonnie. But yeah, I'll pass it to you, Rokila. What do you think? Anything you want to add on between the conversation between Lonnie and Natasha? And also, like, how do you feel as a parent with the system, the government, the medical professionals? They don't have to inform you. They can make decisions for your child without the consent of the parent.
Rose kind of said it. There's so many questions. Like, at what point does this become their option? Like, if this is the law, like, you know how, like, when the kids ask, like, oh, mommy, why can't you do this? And you say, oh, you can't because it's against the law. Like, at what point is this their option? Like, when can you, like you said, it takes it away from the parents. And I feel like the government does this. There's a fine line between support and suggest, like supportive, like them trying to say, oh, we want them to be the best citizen or person they want to feel like, versus suggesting, hey, this is an option that is available to you. Or the whole HIPAA violation, we all know that that's like, this body came from my body. I'm sorry, as a mom, as a mom, like I just, I don't know. I'm speechless. That's it. I just shake my head.
Lonnie, do you want to add on anything, Lonnie?
I just think it's a way for the government to stop letting parents parent their kids. That's what I think, because I think it's hard. I don't know if you guys watch like some social media videos, but there's ones where like you see, no offense to Palangi people, but you see Palangi kids talking back to their parents all the time, and that's a very common thing within their community. And I think doing something like this, it will give kids kind of the thing, well, I don't need to listen to you, like you're my parent, but the law says that I can do this without your approval. So I just think these kind of things is basically, it's just the government getting involved where I don't think they should be involved at all.
No, facts. Thank you so much, Lonnie. I see I'm going to read out some live chats real quick. I see Malo here for the first time. Shout out to you, Malo. He said, at the end of the day, vote conservative. Yeah, that vote looking really good right now, especially with the gas prices right now. All right, thank you for sharing. Tweebo, he shared that Lonnie, a lot of divorced men agree with you on therapists. All right, Tweebo, thank you for sharing that. And then TL said, I get it, Natasha. However, social inclusion does not trump individual well-being. Facts, man. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, she's going to jump on real quick back and be part of the conversation. Wait, we both just said LGBTQ, let's get Biden to quit. That's the first time I've seen that. I'm dying right now. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, ladies, the next topic, the question I want to ask you guys real quick. I saw an article I was reading. I'll post a link in the live chat. In California, and I know there's more states like California, especially the liberal states, the blue states, right? It's it's mandated where they have to teach sexuality and LGBTQ to children at a very young age. So they have to I'm going to post the because I was reading an article in California. It's mandated that they have to include it as part of the lessons and what they teach the kids. So I want to ask you, ladies, real quick. Like, what do you feel? What do you think about that? Like, not only that they pass a law where it gives the kids the right without parental consent to make this choice on their own, without including you guys also, but now they're also indoctrinating it into the school system where it's mandatory for them to teach this to your kids about sexuality, and so it's going to be it's going to be part of their education. And then also, so depending on the teacher, you're not going to be there to see how the teacher is teaching it. If there's bias, if the teacher's going to be very neutral on this, just give them the information, or try to have them lean one way. Because like I said, they're very young; they don't know what they're going to do. And sometimes as kids, if you implant an idea on their head, then it becomes it becomes a belief and it becomes a reality, and it can affect their way of thinking, and they can get confused. So, but what do you think about that? I mean, as parents, like that, now it's already mandated, especially in California, but I don't know other states. But I know some states are doing it. So what do you think about teaching sexuality, including it as part of the curriculum at school, kids at a very young age. Go ahead, Rokila. What do you think?
It's none of their business. The teacher's job, you're there to teach. Like, please just teach my child how to, like, I don't, sexuality, I understand, what is it, in PE, or like, you know, when they teach you like what your body part, you know, the muscles, I mean, biology, you know, I mean, there's levels to it, but for you to be, I mean, the obsession behind it is it's weird, and it is giving capital P, you know, like there is an agenda behind it, and I agree so much with what Rhodes is saying. Like, to me, you're supposed to go to school to learn stuff that I can't teach you. My child's sexual, you know, their gender shouldn't be a discussion. It shouldn't be something that everybody should. Yeah, no, I just. It's weird. It's weird to me. I'm sorry.
All right. No. Thank you for sharing that, Rokila. Rhodes, what do you think, Rhodes, about the not mandating school to teach this as part of the curriculum in school to young children?
Well, if we have adults who can't formulate a sentence and write a paragraph, why should we add that in the curriculum?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So the curriculum is flooded with unnecessary things. We have to teach the children how to think, not what to think. And it's like, okay, now we have to educate the children about the social construct of this culture, right? I don't know if you guys know about programming, right? The more
Go ahead.
rote, some of us learning, right? Rote method, where you memorize mathematics and things like that, right? Are we manipulating it so that they're learning? Let's just say, are we teaching them to accept all? Does that make sense? Or are we teaching them that, how do you say it? I mean, is it about teaching them about inclusion and accepting differences? Because right now we can't even get the race issue.
Yeah.
Right? We can't even get the relationship issue. We can't even get why men and women think differently, and why we can't communicate. We can't even get the basics right.
Right.
Then how can we put something as more complex as this on the children's plate?
Yes.
Right? They are bombarded with so much. I don't know. I've worked in a hospital setting where, I don't know if you guys heard of Munchausen, right? Where the mother would tell the child that there's something wrong with them. Eventually, the child would start showing some symptoms where there's absolutely nothing wrong with them, because the mother kept on saying there's something wrong with them, right? So this is this ongoing thing. This play, oh, there's, you're sick, right? Come into hospital, check in, but the science says you're not sick. But the psychological component is, mom's been telling me I'm sick. Right? So if you look at social media and you look at media, right, what we're pumping out constantly, what's happening there? Is it the directing or manipulating our perspective? And yet when we question it, we seen as crazy.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of programming.
Yeah. I mean, they've got new ways of doing division, right? Have you guys seen the TikTok maths? Right. We learned the long way division. Right.
Common core, they call it. Yeah.
Right. The basics. Right. And language is constantly changing.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Rose. Yeah, like I totally agree, Rose. There's a lot of programming, especially in on TikTok. I think it's more dominated by the younger people, by the youth, and people are just getting programmed right now by social media. So it's really concerning. Thank you. That's why we got to have these conversations. I'll pass it to you, Lonnie. Lonnie, what do you think about the schools? It's it's mandated for certain states that they have to include this kind of a curriculum to teach kids about sexuality, about LGBTQ. What do you think about that, Lonnie?
Well, I know from my personal experience when I was in elementary school, I had an older cousin. He was a year older than me, and sixth grade is when you start to do the whole sex ed thing. And I remember my cousin. He went to the sex ed class, and then he comes home and he tells my aunt and my uncle how his teacher were talking to they're talking to him about sex and what it is and what do you do. And basically, the teacher had been telling the kids that it's okay for them or it's normal to experiment and to try things with the same gender. And mind you, my cousin was only in the sixth grade. And so he comes home, and my auntie, who's very outspoken, she ends up like going to like the legislature. I think she went I'm not sure what happened because I was still young. But I remember there was a huge article about it, and my auntie ended up being called homophobic because she didn't support the fact that her child was being told in a school setting that it's okay for him to try and have intercourse with other boys or other men. You know what I mean? And it blows my mind that this conversation is still being talked today, where does a teacher feel like it's their right to tell my child what to do and or what they should do with their body. And I understand that a lot of people want to do inclusion and make a child feel comfortable, which is great. And we're not saying that we shouldn't try to make our kids feel comfortable with their bodies, or we shouldn't try to teach them about sex. We're not saying that at all. But as a parent, your job is to teach my kids A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way to Z, and 1, 2, 3, and all the algebras and all that kind of stuff. You don't need to be teaching my kid about like anal sex or whatever else. And I know also in Hawaii, a few years ago, they were actually trying to pass a bill where in the sex education curriculum, they were going to teach the kids what anal sex was and what, and all these kind of things. And it was a huge controversy. And a lot of parents, in Hawaii were like, no, you ain't teaching that to our kids. But, like my daughter, she's going to be in sixth grade next year. And I know they had a conversation, like a Zoom with the parents to be like, hey, this is what we teach. This is the curriculum. If you don't agree with it, don't send your kids to school on these days or whatever. And so I feel like I think parents should have, a say in what their kids are being taught when it comes to sexual education. And I feel like schools should, have a PowerPoint or have, a presentation to show the parents what their kids are going to be learning, because I do feel that it is important to teach kids about sex, but at the same time, like for me as a mom, that should be taught at home. And that's just for me. And I know not all parents are like that. And I know especially Polynesian parents, growing up with my mom and my uncles, and my extended family, we weren't, sex wasn't a big topic that, you don't talk to your mom about sex, it's weird. Or you don't talk to your grandma about sex, it's weird. You know what I mean? So I do feel like as a community, we do need to make safe spaces where our children are comfortable having those conversations with us and with, mom and dad or whoever else is their caretaker or whoever they feel is their safe space. So those conversations need to be held at home, not be taught in school,
Yeah. Yeah, I think I mean, just when I went to high school, even there, I had some heterosexual teachers, I had some homosexual teachers. But I remember none of them talked about their their sexual identity, their sexual orientation. That was never brought up when I went to high school. It was their personal life. Whatever happened in their personal life as teachers, it stayed there. They never brought it to school. But now we're telling teachers that because whenever you talk about sexuality, we all know like your personal experience is always going to come with it, right? So it's really really hard to be very neutral and be just stick by the whatever by the book. And that's concern for me. Like you're gonna give that to teachers, and when we're not there, the parents are not there. You're gonna rely on the teacher to teach this, and especially if the teacher, is gonna share some things that they shouldn't. They to be oversharing and tell things that they shouldn't be doing. Who's gonna monitor the teacher? Who's gonna to make sure the teacher's doing their job the right way? Are the teachers uh, other teachers going to go through like some kind of teaching program to make sure that they teach this correctly to children in a way it doesn't confuse them, or they're just like, hey, here's the law, whatever you just teach it the way you want to teach it. I mean, I want to, I mean, that's the thing for me is like, if this is happening with our kids, like in schools, like who's like, what kind of program do we have, or what kind of system the schools have to make sure the teachers, number one, are getting the right type of training to know how to do it correctly, and number two, is there a system in a way to make sure that they get held accountable if they do something wrong and they misguide one of the kids, other teachers going to be held accountable. It just seems like to me they just pass a law and they're like, hey, do it, and then there's no system, there's no training in place, there's no things to hold them accountable just in case something happens between the kid and the teacher or something. I think that's concerning for me and what I hear. I do see there's a public guest real quick. I'm gonna add him on real quick. What's up, Daniela? Thank you for jumping on. Thank you. Let me just read some comments real quick. Shout out to Veronica Eugenio. Teaching kids about sexuality at a young age. California is teaching the kids how to touch themselves. They are grooming the kids to accept sexual contacts by adults. Teach the 3 R's of basic ed and keep it moving. Yeah, thank you so much, Veronica, being here on the live chat for the first time on the live show. Thank you so much. Exactly. Yeah, I think that's what's happening. I mean, Rhodes brought it up. I think that's the next phase. It's the age of consent is going to come down and normalizing pedophilia, and then we're pretty much normalizing grooming kids. And then I think Tuibo mentioned the teachers I had growing up were in the late 40s and 50s, mean as heck. But you definitely learn. Nowadays, a bunch of young caught up in their feelings and have nobody to vent to. Yeah, we have a lot of social woke teachers nowadays. So that's a problem. And how are you going to monitor that? How are you going to make sure that they're following the book? But yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Watch this right now. Like I said, if you love the content, love the conversation, smash that, press that like, subscribe button real quick. Of course, don't forget, I just posted the live chat. The public link of the live chat. If you guys want to jump on, as you guys see it, just add Daniela as a public guest. I would love to hear your guys' perspectives on this and be part of the conversation. Daniela, thank you for jumping on as a public guest. I know you've heard the conversation that we've been having. What do you think? Anything you want to add on to what we already discussed? Go ahead, Daniela.
Yeah, there's multitude of things to add on. And if anyone's wanting to question my credential in terms of any of the opinions that I have, my only claim is that I'm a father of two. I have a young boy and I have a young daughter. And vast majority of my interaction with them, my sons can be quite feminine at time, and so is my daughter. My daughter has a habit of saying that she's a boy, and she pursues to do things that are very masculine in nature, and that's not due to her actually wanting to be a boy. She sees activities and hobbies that her brother is engaging in, and the way that he plays around with kids in our neighborhood, she wants to be included in those activities. So in her mind, she thinks that she can only participate if she's a boy or she acts like a boy. So it's my job with my wife to tell her, you can play, you can be part of those activities without the need to be a boy. she dresses up in this particular way, and she feels like that also affirms that her wanting to be a boy, not because of what she thinks, but it's because her mother dresses up like that. Her mother's a tomboy by nature, and she dresses up like a boy, and so therefore my daughter grows up to see that, right? So, and not only that, I think this whole thing that we need to go back to the origin of gender identity, and it was a set of ideology that was concocted by a man named John Money, and in his pursuit to chase this ideology, he ended up with an experiment of two twins, well, sets of twins. And the way he carried out his experiment was he transitioned the twins at birth to the opposite gender, right? And they were to be treated and to be raised in that gender, never to be made known who they were biologically. The experiment ended up failing in the sense that they transitioned back to their original biological sexes, and not only that, due to the trauma that they went through being raised as the opposite sex, they essentially unalived themselves. After transitioning back, having a family of their own, and trying to live a normal life as they may perceive it, they ended up, unaliving themselves in that way. So it was a huge failure, but we've taken that on now as essentially as a global ideology and run with it. A big thing that I hear within the trans activism here in New Zealand, and it's usually pushed by Pacific Islander activists who are very who are also indigenous activists by nature and everything that comes with it. So I wonder if we actually know that this guy was a white man who was a pervert by nature, and part of his therapy processes was to undress these kids while they were transitioned and to take pictures of them. So if you have someone who's driven an ideology right from the basis, and we grab the hold of it and we run with it on a global level, that seems that there is an underlying agenda to a movement. Now, that does not mean that we as Pacific Islander people do not accept those that exist in between. We've had them from the dawn of time. A vast majority of our mythologies and our gods had people that existed in between. We didn't have this ideology of gender. We accepted them in different rituals and different integration in our society. So it's not a matter of do we accept trans people or not. They were always a part of the community because they were just essentially human beings, right? I think this perversion of gender as we know it now is a modern day way of attacking men, but not only that, erasing what it is to be a woman. Right, I mean, over at the United States, I've heard the new term coined, birthing people, referring to mother, and people coming out saying that to use the term mother is offensive to some people.
Bullshit.
And the most appropriate term to use now is birthing mother, right? So there's a fundamental attack on what it is to be a society and what it is to be a community, and it's been driven under the guise of acceptance and social inclusion, which to me is it's total bullshit. Now, when I look at a trans person, I don't look at a trans person and look into myself and go, oh, I need to accept you. No, you're a human being. We exist to help each other, and that's how I see it. But if you live your life seeking to push an agenda on me to accept you for who you are by referring to your own ideology, I don't accept that, because I'm not pushing my own ideologies on you. We can have conversations, we can try and understand each other, but to reel me into submission, to believe in what you want, essentially the globe, the whole world to believe in, that no, right? And I have the right to own my children because why? The beautiful woman that sits in my lounge who birthed them, gone through so many hurdles in conceiving and to raising my own children, to birthing them. And that's a right that no government can take away from her and from me. And I think it sounds like in Cali that's what they're doing. Because this is the other thing that they don't mention, is that the trans community are, I think, 4 to 5 times more likely to commit suicide. And there's also a question that begs that why is it now in a modern day that we accept them by and large more than we did, say, 10 years ago, and there wasn't a mass suicide rage then than it is now. So that's another question to be asked.
Okay. All right. Of course.
Can
Thank you so
I
much.
say something to that?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead. Go ahead.
But because they've been accepted in our culture for so long, right? Everyone was included in our culture. Why are we fighting a white man's battle? It seems to be it's their ideology, but in our culture we accepted everybody and everyone's difference, right? For some reason it's like this is an ideology that like all of a sudden like we're fighting for these rights for something we never had arguments for before. I'm just confused. Like, why are we fighting someone else's battle? I mean, do our Polynesian kids feel that they're not included or accepted?
Or they're gonna be affected because we live in America, right? So whatever ideologies that's gonna be enforced by the government, it will affect us to some degree eventually. I think because we live here, because we're influenced by social media, we're influenced by the culture, we're influenced by what's normalized and accepted in this modern society. And because I'm sure a lot of you guys, have Pacific Islander friends are woke. They have the woke mentality. They have the same ideologies as these white people or the Palangis, as you said. So it's affecting our community to some degree. But I think that's why like this discussion, we got to have this discussion because we all live in this country. What do you think about that, Underground Roads? What do you think, Roads?
I just feel, why are we taking on? I mean, I don't see we've had that issue in our culture.
Well, you said it. The program.
Is it? Yeah.
Programming. The programming, right? You said it. You already said it. You're getting programmed, right?
Yeah, we loved everyone. It didn't matter, right? It's just like we're fighting someone else's battle, for someone else's ideology to flourish, to be the norm. It's almost like, okay, now let's accept, like Daniela said, right? Now we're going to be a non-binary, right? Non-binary, where we basically disregard males and females.
Yeah.
And that's scary, because then I don't know. There's just so many questions. Sorry.
No worries, no worries. Thank you for sharing the Roads. Lani, did you want to add on what Daniela said or anything you want to add on? Okay. No worries. And then Killa? Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Daniela. I wanna move on to this topic. I want you guys to want to discuss this. So obviously, you guys watched the documentary in the beginning when I had the trailer in the beginning of the live. We showed the trailer where Matt Walsh was going around to the professionals and asking him what is a woman. So my question to you, lady, as you guys see that we are, in this postmodernist society, we're moving away from science. We're moving away from science, from logic, from facts. It's based on feelings. So the ideologies that they want to enforce on us, especially with this law, and that's coming from the left, they want to base their ideologies, especially with sexuality. We don't want to base it on reality, because in reality, there's only two genders. It's male and female. But they want to normalize. They want to go away from that definition. The new definition that they want us to normalize and accept as the new definition of sexuality is it's no longer male or female. It's based on identification, on how that person identifies themselves. If a man, if a biological man that grew up his whole life as a man, if today he just decides, you know what, I'm a woman, then he's a woman. That means that he can go into restrooms like a woman. That means he can participate in sports like a woman, just because he identifies as a woman. So I want to ask you guys real quick, what do you think about that? What do you think about, what's your thoughts about the, well, number one, I want to ask you, what is your definition of a woman? Because he was trying to figure out that answer. And a lot of the professionals couldn't get it. So what is your definition of a woman? But also, what are your thoughts also on how we are going away from facts and from science, from data, from truth? We're just gonna go based on how somebody identifies themselves, and that's kind of where we're gonna go. That's the that's what the left, the liberals are trying to push, the radical left. That's the definition they want everybody to accept as a new definition. It's no longer based on male and female. It's just based on how individual identifies themselves. But I'll start with you, Rokila. What do you think? What is your definition of a woman, and what do you think about the definition? It's going away from the scientific gender, male and female. It's based on how you identify yourself. Go ahead, Rokila.
I would say that my definition of a woman would be a person who can carry a child, who has a womb. I'm not my business. I'm just like, I know who I am. I'm not worried about if you're happy it's so complicated, the society just has this way of making all this so complicated, and I'm sorry. This is just something that I just don't concern myself about, not because it doesn't affect me. You get what I'm saying? Like, if that it doesn't affect me, it hasn't, and so unfortunately, I don't.
Rokila, I would say this, Rokila. It is like, how do you feel about a man identifies as a woman, and then you have to share the same bathroom as him, because that will affect you. If you walk in the bathroom,
it would. Yes. And that's because other narrative, it leads to other ways. Anybody can just say, "Oh, I want to come into the woman's bathroom," or I feel like a woman. So many safety, reasons. Like, I just feel unsafe. I'm already shy in the bathroom when other people are in there. So for it to be a man, for that, I don't agree with that, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much. I'm sorry.
No worries. Thank you so much, Rokila. Rokila just minding her own business. It's okay.
That's it.
I feel you. I pass on to Lani. Lani, what do you think? Or what's your definition of a woman? And what do you think about how now biological men can just identify? That's the new definition of gender. Is just based on how you identify and how you feel, and then you're just gonna be able to share any facility that's usually reserved for women with other men who identify as women. What do you think? Go ahead.
So disclaimer, because I have some of my family watching, so I'm gonna swear. So please don't be offended and tell my mom. But that's disrespectful as fuck. Like, I did not birth my child and hold her in my stomach for 9 damn months to be called a freaking birth carrier. I am sorry, but I have, like, as a woman, and I'm not saying women go through more things than men, because I feel like, the playing field is equal. But as somebody who has earned my right to be a mother and has gone through things that only a woman can go through, for some person, whether they be transgendered or non-gendered or whatever they want to identify themselves as, to tell me that I'm just a birth giver is misogynistic as shit. Like, you do not have, like, I'm sorry, it is what it is. Like, you can't tell me that I'm not a woman, or just because you feel like you're a woman. Like, no, whatever, like how Rokila said, if you're born with female genitalia and with a womb, and you can give birth to children, whether you can or you cannot, you are a woman. And end of the day. And I feel like for people who want to identify, it's like, okay, well, if that's how you want to identify, then identify that in your own personal life. Like, don't come into my space and tell me how I should identify just because it doesn't add up to how you want to feel. Like, I'm 31 years old. I am at the point in my life where I cannot be tiptoeing around everybody's feelings and trying to make everybody else feel included, just so, and make myself feel like shit at the end of the day. Like, I ain't gonna do it. So, and then even with, I've seen people, who participate in sports, people who are transgendered. And I know Bruce Jenner, who we all know is transitioned from female to male, male to female. But even he said that transgendered people do not have a place in women's sports because they have a disadvantage. And so I feel like as a woman, for me, like if my daughter was a track runner and she had to go against, someone in her age category who was a transgender person, I would feel that's a disadvantage, And I feel like we as women have gone through so much trying to get our own rights and our own voices heard. And now there's a group of people that are trying to tell me how I feel and trying to tell me that I need to be inclusive when women weren't always included in a lot of things. We weren't allowed to vote for a very long time. We were conditioned to just be homemakers and stay-at-home moms, which is fine for some of us. You know what I mean? So I feel like as much as, these people want to be included, they're also trying to make me feel like they're trying to uninclude me. You know what I mean? By including themselves, they're trying to disinclude me as a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I fear for my daughters because, I don't want my daughters to feel like, oh, mom, I'm not a woman enough, or, or this boy tells me he's a girl. And so therefore, I don't want my kids I want my kids to feel confident. But my kids' confidence shouldn't be based on whether someone else doesn't feel confident about themselves. You know what I mean? So I'm sorry. Maybe if what I said was like disrespectful, but I'm against the whole thing. Don't.
No.
Yeah.
No, keep it real, Lonnie. That's what you believe in. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Lonnie. I think Veronica shared a comment. She said, yes, we are fighting the white man's battles for them, but they make it like they are fighting for us minorities. We have accepted and respect our mahus as our kumu, the keepers of our culture. Yeah, thank you so much, Veronica. Appreciate appreciate that. And then Kayawara said, LOL, I agree with Lonnie. Okay. Yeah, right. Lonnie bringing that big energy, y'all. Bringing that big energy. Shout out to Lonnie. Yeah, let me pass it on to you, Rhodes. Well, what do you think? What's your definition of a woman? And also, what do you think now? How today's a definition. It can be based on somebody's identifying themselves or whatever sexuality they are, and then they're allowed to share the same spaces as you as a woman. If a guy decides, biological man decides to be a woman, he can just share the same access to public bathrooms, restrooms, everything that you have as a woman. What do you think about that as well? Go ahead, Rose.
My chromosomes determine I'm a woman. Right? The chromosomes, my biological makeup, right? My ability to create. And my feminine qualities. And I agree wholeheartedly with Lonnie, right? I played sports. Growing up. I played baseball in a mixed team, but I still wasn't as strong and as the guys that I played with. I ran track and field, right? I like I said before in another live, I am not as fast as the slowest male runner on the track team. I still can't beat them, right? There's a huge difference. My role is different. Even though we may be equal as men and women, my role is different for a reason. Because I'm the one that's birthing the next generation. I'm the one that's nurturing, right? And the men and women coming together, we complement that for the child. There's this balance. We should create this balance. I always joke about it, like I am the rib of Adam, right? I'm running around. I'm his rib.
Yeah.
There is a purpose why we have this role, and I don't like to be discounted as a woman because all of a sudden we have categorized and placed us as birthing mothers. We're just like a mode of transportation. That's all we are. We're just someone that's just there to house something and then discard us, right?
Yeah.
That's just and the dangers again going into bathrooms, right? If we don't feel safe with our own children going into the bathroom, because things do happen in the bathroom for kids, right? Do you think it'll be safe when it's mixed genders going in the same bathroom if your kid is still going in that bathroom?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Rose. Appreciate that. And yeah, what the funny thing is, when the LGBT community, what they were saying that they were oppressed, but what it seems like now today, the oppressed is becoming the oppressor. Like they're the ones oppressing, us, and canceling everybody, trying to attack everybody. When we speak about the things that we're concerned about, it just seems like that they're the ones trying to attack us. And the whole purpose of it they're fighting for is inclusion, but it seems kind of weird. Like they're trying to always trying to attack or cancel people like us. Like we have our own views. We still believe they're human beings. We want to treat them right, but we just have we still believe in the biological perspective in male and female.
Okay, great. So let me just say something. But they created this system, right? This is a system. They created the system, yet they don't feel like they belong in their system. Versus for us in our culture, we have our system. Everybody belonged. So it's like we all have to conform to their own system they created that rejected them and now discounting us.
Yeah.
And so what happened is this is why we need to teach our children where they came from, who their forefathers are, how they survived, how they thought in those days. That's what we need to be teaching them, right? Now they're taking on everyone else's issues by a system that was not created by us.
Yeah.
It was for their economical purpose and benefit, right? They came to the Pacific. Hawaii was the center point on that economic wheel. Hawaii was going to connect the rest of the other Pacific islands into the whole purpose of them building this economic system. Same as the educational system. It was created to build the, the economy. Then, right? It has not changed.
Yeah.
In the Great Depression, it has not changed.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Rose. And I see Hepatize, shout out to you. First time on the live chat. He said, yes, Lani. All right, Hepatize. Thank you so much for watching this for the first time. Shout out to you watching, tuning in for the live show. And don't forget, if you guys want to jump onto this conversation, I posted a public link. I would love to hear you guys and jump on for the last part of the podcast and add on to the conversation. Anybody here that want to get an invite here, and also don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the conversation. Appreciate the unfiltered, raw conversation that we have tonight. Daniela, what do you think, Daniela? What's your definition of a woman, or are you as lost as Matt Walsh? And what do you think about how anybody can identify how that's become that's getting pushed right now as the acceptable definition of what gender is, and how it affects men and women, especially when it comes to private places, sports, society as a whole. What's your thoughts about that, Daniela?
Yeah, so when it comes to what is a woman, I think for me personally, the most simplest definition of a woman to me is a human adult with the biological anatomy and markers that has the capacity to conceive and to give birth. Now, whether you're fertile or infertile, that's just by having the markers in anatomy makes you a woman. Now, when we talk about inclusion and having private spaces where it's gender neutral and all of these things combined, what the transgender community, the genuine one, don't realize is that because they're pushing it in such a manner that is, as you said, oppressing others who have a different opinion, they're now opening their movement to the guise of those with evil intention, right? So the trans community who are genuinely in their being and in their soul, they feel like they are a different sex. They're not the one that we're talking about. It's those who have perverted ideas and notions of evil within them that will use this movement as a guise. Because how do you determine that someone is genuinely trans or not? I mean, over in the United States, there was a prison that allowed men who transition to women into their prisons, and after they were admitted, I think a few of the inmates gave birth or were pregnant. Right, so when we talk about transgender and the community in general, I think the genuine, those who are genuinely going under and believing that they are the opposite sex, they're not the ones that we're talking about. It is those who seek any sort of excuse to deploy any evil nature into the world that's becoming the issue. I don't believe in the gender neutral bathrooms and that sort of shit, right? I have a daughter, and I wouldn't. The day that my daughter tells me that their school has allowed gender neutral toilet is the day that I take her out of it, right? Because it's not the kids who are or the people that are genuinely under that notion of they believe. It's those without, and we don't have a metric of determining who is genuine and who is not, and based on that, no.
Yeah, and also I would add on this. If there is gender neutral bathrooms, at school, like would that mean the teachers can go into those bathrooms? And because usually, at school there's a male bathroom. The males can go with the males, the females can go with the females. The adults at the school. But if there's a gender neutral bathroom, like does that mean the teachers and adults can get to share the same bathroom as with the kids? I don't know. I mean, I don't know how that's gonna happen. Especially if it's gonna be the same. But everybody on that's watching now, thank you so much for watching. I guess my question I want to ask you guys real quick is like, do you feel like the government is like overstepping their boundaries? Obviously, this is coming from the legislation, and then they're pushing this, but into law. Do you guys feel like that the government is overstepping their boundaries as far as their power? They're abusing their power to come into our space as parents, where you guys don't have consent over your kids no more. The kids can go out there and make choices for themselves without the consent of the parents, and the health insurance companies don't have to inform you of your decision. They're allowing the schools to teach this. I know there's a lot of people I've seen online. They pull their kids. They're actually homeschooling their kids. They pulled, especially conservatives, they pulled their kids away from school, and they refuse to put their kids to school to be indoctrinated by those ideologies. They want to teach their kids and homeschool their kids. So because they feel like the government's overstepping. So I want to ask you guys: do you guys believe that the government is abusing their power? And what's your thoughts about that? I'll start with you, Rokila. What do you think, Rokila?
Definitely. I'm gonna, of course, the government does a great job of implementing laws and things that take away from just a lot of. I mean, it starts at home. It starts at home, and my household is different. I'm not one of like that's not an issue that I don't know. Of course, yes, I do think that the government is overstepping That's something that I want to be able to discuss with my child, my children. I just
Also,
go ahead.
I also want to add on this. When do you where do you draw the line as far as like, okay, if the government gets this far, that's when I'm like, I'm gonna be really upset. I'm probably gonna like, when do, like, for you, like, what line does the government have to cross for you to start going to your local governor or going to local mayor and banging at the door like, or stop pulling your kids from school? Like, look, there's no way in hell I'm putting my kids around that type of ideology and those teachers. I'm just gonna do this by myself. Like, obviously you haven't got to that point, but for you as a parent, because you have a child, and what is the point where they overstep? Do you feel like that you have to actively do something, whether to go directly to the legislation, or you're just going to pull away from your kids? You know what? I'm going to take the responsibility to do this myself, because I'm not going to put my kids in a system that's going to brainwash them, program them, and or put them in harmful situations where they have to share their bathroom with adults or trans people that may have some evil intentions, just like Daniela said. So where do you draw the line as far as what the government can do?
I draw the line once they start teaching my child sex education at a certain age, stuff that I don't think that it's not age. Like, if like
what
right
would
now,
that be? Age would that be, and what specific
intercourse, like how to like just intercourse. Just, I don't think sex is something that my child before the age of, my child, he's 5. And this summer I've already taken my son out of the state of California. He's in Virginia now. There's already so many things that I've had an issue with here in the state of California. So, but his gender was not anything that, but I draw the line when the whole adults being able to share the bathroom with students, that shouldn't be allowed. Even though, like you said, in regular schools, normally the teacher can. I draw the line there. No, there shouldn't be. If there's a third gender involved, I'm already at that line where I'm homeschooling myself. You get what I'm saying? So this is a difficult question for me because I only have one child, and
okay.
I don't see myself. I'm sorry. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah. So for you, is when they start teaching kids about sex at a very young age, how to perform sex. That's when you draw the line. And I know you're a former military, so that's when you pull out the rifle and start marching.
I mean, I can't. It makes me so uncomfortable. I'm so sorry.
No worries. No. Okay. Thanks for sharing that, Rokilla. Let me pass to you, Lani. Lani, same thing. What do you think about? Do you feel like the government's overstepping? And for you, at what point do you feel like that where do you draw the line as far as the government overstepping? When you really, you're gonna be really concerned, you're gonna actually do something about it. And go ahead.
I think the government has and will continue to overstep. And I don't think it's just the government. I mean, I look at our cultural, and I mean, when I mean culture, I mean like outside of Pacific Islanders, but like as a mass society, I see the way, everything is turning. And to me, it's just problematic, in itself. Like how I shared earlier with my 5th grader who told me her friend was pansexual. She's 11 years old. Like, I'm pretty sure, they don't talk about sex ed yet. That's not class. They don't have till next year. But even at 11 years old, that's a topic that's already coming up among her friends. She's even told me, like, Mom, like we talk about bisexual and, what is a lesbian? What is that's a discussion these 11 and 10-year-olds are already having. And I don't think that has to do specifically with the government, but I think that has to do in what direction our society is going towards. And I feel like, Sally, I don't think that it's ever gonna divert back the way it should. And so as a parent, I don't have the luxury of pulling my kids out and homeschooling them, or we actually moved from a blue state to a red state. So Alaska is super conservative and Hawaii is democratic, you know what I mean? But even with those things, I feel like as a parent, it's my job to teach my kids these things, to have these uncomfortable conversations that maybe we as Pacifica people, we didn't have with our parents, that we didn't talk about consent. We didn't talk about sex education, these, those topics, like, and, we've talked about these things on this podcast before, but a lot of us polys, we didn't have those tough discussions. So I feel like as parents now, we need to start, having more of having deeper conversations with our kids, having tough conversations, so that when they do go out into the world, they do understand, hey, yeah, we do need to accept everyone for who they are. But at the same time, I'm allowed to have my own feelings about it, So, like, going back to the original question, the government has always interfered. I feel like the government will keep interfering. And so that's why we as parents need to really, what is it called? Really be a part of our kids' lives. Because I feel like, as parents, we get busy, we have jobs, making money is hard. But we need to be there for our kids, and we need to be able to teach them, all of these important topics beforehand, so that when they do come across, topics like, LGBTQ, sex education, whether it be in the classroom, outside of the classroom. I took my two daughters for their, what is it called? For their physical, for their yearly physical. The doctor full gave me a pamphlet, and my daughter opened it, and it's a vagina, like full on, like it showed, all the genitalia, what it's called. And he was like, yeah, have your kid, look through it. And I grabbed it from her, and I was like, we'll go through it at home, together, because I do believe that we do need to educate our kids. I mean, I'm a big advocate for these things, but we can't let our kids educate themselves, because they're kids. And we all know what Google's going to do when you look up, what's sex, what's, all those Pornhubs and X videos are going to start popping up on your history, and that's the issue in itself. Like, pornography is a huge, child exploitation, Snapchat, TikTok. So yeah, at the end of the day, be involved with your kids, know about their friends. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that, Lonnie. Pass it to Rose. Rose, what do you think? As far as the government, as far as their role in this, and also like at what point do you get really concerned if you feel like that where you draw the line that they overstep too much, that you're probably gonna have to, probably think about taking some major action against it. What do you think, Rose?
I think they brought up the educational part.
Yeah.
And then the other one was the age of consent. That's where I draw the line. I believe in the Constitution and its process, but it's the elected officials that I'm concerned about, because I don't know what the agenda is.
Yeah.
Because you can use the Constitution to, it's like someone said, the power is in the pen. It's that paper, right? And who are we electing, and what are they all about, right? But yeah, the age and consent is where I draw the line, in the educational part.
Okay. The educational part, and especially if they because you said that I think me and you agree. I think down the line, the age of consent is probably going to be dropped down to 12. If this is going to happen, well, like, what would you do? Like, if that happened, like, is there anything you're gonna do differently if they drop the age of consent to 12? Like, what would you do when you find out?
We're just a step away from that. California just opened the doors. Obama opened the big door.
Yeah.
And then you start seeing all the other things, all these little doors starting to open up. That the age of consent, where they determine whether they want to be this gender or that, that's another major step. Again, we're just a pen away, another step away from opening that door.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting. For me, it's gonna be interesting to see, like, when that happens, like, are people gonna just let it happen? I mean, that's what's gonna be.
Well, are they creating this kind of norm that we're supposed to slowly shift into to accept, so that it's like a not shock to the system? Does that make sense? So it's this slow, gradual process that's taking place. And again, everything is so sexualized for our children. They're no longer children. We're rushing them to be adults.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the music sexualized. Look at Disney. So many subliminal messages in there. I don't know if people pay attention to that. All those fairy tales weren't fairy tales. They had all sad and terrible endings. Yeah. You know, we're just again, the age of consent is where I'm gonna start to draw the line, but I don't know if we're able to protect our children with now that they've passed that law in California.
No. Thank you for sharing that, Rhodes. I think Tuipo said, I have to disagree. You can't accept everyone. Example, it's like the company looking to fill in the opening. You can't accept every application. The logic also applies to society. Respect everyone, but you don't need to accept them or their ideology. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Tuipo. Shout out to you, Extra Life here for the first time. Shout out to you. First time being on the show, first time I've seen a live chat. Well said, Lonnie. It's all love. God bless everyone. But I don't have to believe what you believe. No worries. Thank you so much. We can agree or disagree. That's fine. Thank you so much for everybody that's sharing their thoughts. I always appreciate you guys on the live chat. I'm passing to you, Daniel. Daniel, what do you think, Daniel? As far as the government's role in this, and like, where do you draw the line when you start have to like knocking on some public officials' houses?
In terms of my own metric, it sounds like the state of California has reached that line for me. When the law is passed that your ability to be a parent and be somewhat of a decent one and aspire to be a good one is now hindered based on laws that deeply affect your children, that's where I draw the line, especially around gender and sex, right? And like Lani was saying, our parents did not have the capacity to have these conversations with us, and we recognize that. And that's the beauty of human nature and its evolution, is that we get to draw a reference from the previous generation and do the best that we can to better ourselves and better the future of our children. So instead of the government looking at policies that deals with well-being and how do we create a society where each individual has the necessary tools to provide a safe space for themselves prior to going out to the world, we now force pretty much the community to abide by sets of rules that it sounds like it hasn't been driven by a community-based sort of initiative, right? And that's also the thing that that should worry people, is that human nature isn't easily curbed. So when we talk about the trans community and their movement, it's taken them some time to steamroll into things and get some movement on. By passing a law, you're also doing the same thing for the opposite people who believe otherwise, and you're forcing them into submission. And what happens when you force someone with a very strong ideology into submission? They will retaliate. So this is not creating a safe space at all. This is pushing people to the extreme to defend their ideology, whether they're right or wrong. So yeah, I draw the line when my ability to be a parent wholeheartedly is being limited by a government entity. Now, when we talk about parenting, we can obviously make differences between good parents and people who are just abusive by nature and toxic to their children because they don't follow a set of ideologies. Those need to be looked at too. But when we look at a wider community at large, yeah, the government should not have a say in how you parent. If you're a good enough parent and if you've proven that you have the mental and emotional capacity to be a parent, they should not rule over that. And that's where I draw the line. So if New Zealand turns around and say, here are some sets of policies that restricts you as a parent, I'm not going to consider I will move. So I just don't believe in that. Because here's the trouble of that, is that now when you think about kids, they are essentially future generations. So what if they believe otherwise? Now we're restricting them also. So where does the line draw, right? We haven't figured that out yet. So unless people figure that out, yeah, the government has no say. And I'll make that decision when it comes to it.
Okay. All right. No worries. Thank you for sharing, Daniela. I appreciate. Thank you for sharing that. And also to roads. I know you brought up the Disney. Even media is getting involved in it. I think I read the article on the new Buzz Lightyear movie coming out that's released by Disney. I think there's a scene on there that's where there's the same sex kissing on that scene in that movie. Because I saw an article, there's some countries are banning it. So I know Saudi Arabia is very conservative. They banned that movie. China banned that movie. So we know not only the government is happening in the government, but we start to see the media, in social media. Obviously, we see on TikTok and Instagram, but the media is getting involved. And as a parent, we have to be aware now and be aware of what your kids are watching, what your kids are looking on the internet, and what they're participating in. Yeah, thank you so much, everybody. That's on the live chat. Did anybody add anything add on to the conversation? Go ahead, Lonnie.
No, I was gonna say, have you guys seen I was at Target the other day, and I was in the little kids section, baby stuff, and they sell bikinis for 6-month-old babies.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what in the world why does a 6-month-old need a bikini?
Yeah.
Give me the logic because why? Or why is it that as a mom, when I go, to the store to buy my kids some clothes, my daughter's clothes, why is everything so short? Why is everything halter tops and short shorts and booty shorts? I don't want my 9-year-old and my 11-year-old to be, to be dressing like that. But then at the same time, it's why is there that entire section of clothes, majority of it is all, short shorts? I don't get it. I don't understand it. And I think, that just, I don't know. It's weird.
Every industry is driven that way, even the music industry.
I know, but it's it's babies though. I mean, as a mom, I can never understand you're sexualizing children.
Mm-hmm.
It is, what you're saying, Rose, is we understand that sex sells, but then when you dip your hands into an industry that's specifically for kids, whether it's be Disney or Nickelodeon or, clothes, it's that's when it's that's perverted.
Yeah, because now we're starting to make pleasure our God. Entertainment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to conclude the podcast. I just want to show you guys this. I remember I saw this was going viral on social media. Because right now it's the Pride Month. Obviously, it's the Pride Month right now for the LGBTQ. There was this drag show in Dallas where there was drag queens, and they had a modeling show, and they were dressed very provocatively, and they had kids in it. They had kids in there. I just want to play it real quick for you guys. I just want to get your reaction to it. Do you think this is appropriate? Because this is what they're pushing right now for that narrative that it's okay to teach kids about these things. But I'm just going to play the video real quick. I just want to get your initial reaction to it and what you think. And you guys can react to it as we're watching. I'm going to take off the volume, but I'm just going to play it real quick and let me know what you guys think. Because I mean, is this what we should have? Is this a safer environment for kids? And also look at the body language of the kids. They look like they were comfortable in that setting. So let me play it real quick. Yeah, Chrome tab, jealous. Can you guys see it? You guys can see it, right?
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna play it.
This is the Drag the Kids to Pride event at Mr. Mister's in Dallas's Oaklawn neighborhood. Organizers promoted it as a family-friendly drag show where kids danced with the performers. What came with it were protests outside.
You people are the symptom of a dying society, and you know it.
I live in this community. I have for several years.
Daisy says she first saw a poster for this event near where she lives.
I don't believe that I should be seeing signs advertising for children to be dancing on stage with men in thongs and in inappropriate clothing and makeup.
The organizers say today was a family-friendly event with a safe environment separate from their normal operations. In a statement, they said, "We believe everyone should have a space to celebrate who they are. Mr. Mister's is a place where everyone is welcome to feel accepted, safe, and included."
I've been here like every night throughout the week.
AJ Cruz has worked at Mr. Mister's for about 2 years now. He said today's event allows people to express themselves.
There was a lot less people drinking today, so that would make it more kid-friendly just because there's so many people here. Everyone just came from all walks of life and, just enjoyed Pride.
Organizers said they've received threatening emails and phone calls from the protesters.
I do not in any way condone the behaviors these people are engaging in, but what drags me out here is it's kids now.
Dallas police said they went to the event and protest to assist with crowd control.
All right. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? What's your reaction to that? I'm sorry. I saw the message. There's an echo. Sorry, there was an echo. That's a lot. My bad, guys. Thanks for the heads up. But what do you guys think? Do you guys? What's your initial reaction? Do you think this is appropriate to have kids? And also, what that video didn't show, there was a stripper there, a stripper like in a thong and bikini. And one of the kids, who I think was like a 9-year-old daughter, they were telling her to put a $1 bill in her thong, and there's a picture of it on the internet from that same event. So, what's your initial reaction to it? I'll start with you, Rhodes. What's your reaction to that event? Do you think that was appropriate for kids, as a safe place for kids, as they said in that video?
It's okay for adults to do it, but for me, involving children, right, that's a whole nother thing. It's almost like this form of indoctrination, and exposure to that. But like I think Twee said there, isn't it illegal for minors to be in bars, right? I don't agree with it. I get it if it's just an event or a festival, but in a setting like that, and those parents agreed to their children being there, they're celebrating, that's their choice. But I don't feel we have to shove that same thing down on the rest of us, that same thing down our throat. Does that make sense? Because I think we can respect each other's differences and choices, but when I believe in something, I don't want to shove it down someone else's throat. I have, full respect for whatever they do, but
yeah, okay,
yeah,
right.
It's not a place for a child to be. That's just how I think.
Yeah, especially a bar. Lonnie, tell him straight, Lonnie. Let him know. What do you think? What do you think?
I'll be real. I've been to a few of those shows. Those are fun, but I'm an adult. I've been an adult. So as an adult, I can enjoy adult things. Mm-hmm. I would not take my child to those things, though. That's for sure. And if those parents want to do those things with their children as some sort of bonding activity, hey, that's up to you. You do you, boo. But what I don't like is when we have, spaces. I know a few years ago, there was this thing where they were trying to do like drag in the library, and like the drag, whoever was in drag would read to kids. I think it was called like Storytime with Drag or something. Those things I don't like, because it's like if you want to have your own private event and have your kids, you know, because you want your kids to have a safe space or whatever, then that's fine. But don't come into the public sector and get mad at everybody or get mad at people like us just because we don't want that. You know what I mean? That's, you know, like what Rhodes says, don't shove it down my throat.
Yeah.
You know, I'm Mormon. I don't go, you know, I don't shove it down people's throats. If they want to join my religion, like, hey, then that's fine. You know, you can do it. But I don't like, you know, and I think Taniela pointed this out, you know, a few discussions back. But it's not that, you know, we have these kind of telenovelas. It's not like we're saying we don't like LGBTQ or transgender people. That's not what we're saying at all. We're saying live your life, do what you want to do. Like if our children want to be that way, then that's fine too. You know, but what we are saying is don't shove it down our throat and expect us to be all happy and jolly about it, you know, and make us feel like we have to accept you, or we have to, you know, agree with your ideologies, or have to call you they, them, z's, them, you know, like, no, I shouldn't be forced to conform to your beliefs. And at the same time, you shouldn't have to be forced to conform to my beliefs. I'm not asking that. What I'm asking for is mutual respect, you know? And I feel like when it comes to these kind of issues, and we've seen that even with, you know, the clips you showed earlier, a lot of these people just, they want respect, but they won't give it. They demand it. And that's the problem.
All right. No worries. Thank you so much, Lani. Rokila, what do you think, Rokila?
You guys covered it. I mean, the ladies, they mentioned it. Both, to me, I don't think they'll be getting a lot of people coming, because the people that were there didn't even, from the video, didn't look like they were very, no. I'm sorry, that was supposed to be funny, but no. It's not important. And who's gonna pay? I just no. You guys were great. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you, Rokila. And Daniela, what was your thoughts about that video? Reaction, real quick.
Yeah, there seems to be a big contradictions in terms of society as a whole when we look at left-driven notions of acceptance and stuff like that, but also at the same time there's also the rhetoric of protecting children's innocence and whatnot, right? So what Lani was saying is, as an adult, I can enjoy adult things, whether that leans to the right or left, regardless of what it is, whether it's a strip show or drag show or whatever. We can enjoy those things. Why? Because we know we've grown into a place where now we're able to determine what those things are and our preferences and all those things by nature. But a child, there's a reason why they go to school, because they don't understand the world as fully as they can do, right? So for me and my children, that's not, I'm not entertaining the slightest thought of accepting that as a community-wide notion. But to those parents, pedophiles no longer come in vans selling candies. They can come in disguises now, right? So that's where you really need to sit down and think. As human nature, as much as we're capable of good, we're also capable of evil. And when we look at, and this is not an attack on men, but vast majority of pedophiles who are men, the reason why they are the way that they are and they can think in a pragmatic sense of way is because they're men, right? So they look at opportunities in any aspect that they can because we're pragmatic by nature. So what's stopping those? And they already started a movement called MAPS, I think it is, right? Under the guise of of gender identity and whatnot. So what's stopping those predators from guising themselves under those things? And now we're exposing children at a young age to accept anyone and everyone. And I also go by what Toya was saying in the comments earlier. I don't need to accept everyone in society. As a man, I have an instinct, and there are some certain instinct that I have from other people that I don't trust, and it comes true. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm happy to sit there and be corrected. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, and if I am, I am. But a vast majority of time, my instincts are always right. So, this whole movement of inclusion at a wider notion, there's a reason why we have certain infrastructures in place to separate evil people from the rest of society. And if we're saying we should accept everyone for who they are, let's have those conversations when we talk about everything that is evil within society, right? And should we accept them also, or does it only have certain privileges for people who earn them? So yeah, hey, if you're a parent, you've gone through some of your own battles to conceive and to bring a child into the world, and you should to some extent have the rights to make those decisions. But yeah, there should be a very deep, considerate amount of time that you should look at things and how you expose your children to them.
All right, no worries. Thank you, Daniela. But yeah, thank you so much for everybody watching the live show. We have come to the conclusion of the podcast. Shout out to everybody in the live chat. Thank you so much. I see so many new names on there. I see Extra Life, Kai Viola, Victoria, Veronica, Eugenio. I see a lot of new names. Extra Life. A lot of you guys here for the first time. Epatai, thank you so much for watching here for the first time. Appreciate you guys. Like I said, if you love the content, like and subscribe to the channel for the support. We continue these conversations to give you guys great conversations and content for you guys. But I want to ask my guest real quick. What's your final thoughts from tonight's discussion real quick? And how can people find you? And we'll conclude the podcast with that. Rokila, what's your final thoughts and how can people find you?
Altogether, I think that with where the government's going and what we've been seeing, that the most important thing for us to do is to go within our homes and really prepare, look at what, and really love on our kids while they're still kids. My name is Rokilla. You can find me on TikTok, Rokilla. IG is a girl named _Rosie. Thank you guys so much for your time, your knowledge. God bless you all.
Appreciate having you, Rokilla. I'll pass it to Lani. Lani, what's your final thoughts? And thank you for the keeping it real tonight. And how can people find you?
Yeah, my final thoughts. I think Underground Roads may know this quote, but someone once said the greatest work you can do is in the walls of your own home. And I think that speaks volume to where our society is going, and not just our society, but our government. And I think we as parents, no matter how old your kids are, you need to be extra vigilant in these times and not just, rely on the teachers and the government to raise your kids, take an active part in their life, and let kids be kids, stop sexualizing them. They don't need to worry about their gender or their sexuality. They need to be hitting them books, playing on the playground, and most importantly, doing their damn chores. That's what they really need to be doing, is doing their chores. Because some of these kids don't know how to clean. That's for sure. But yeah, you can find me on TikTok. My name is Lani Silva Ciliato. And then on IG, it's Lani.Ciliato23. And yeah, thanks for having me on.
All right, no worries. Always welcome to have you on, Lani. And yeah, well, I went up to the good old days, right? The good old days, we were just worried about playing and doing chores.
Yeah.
The good old days. All right, and I see Ramzan Coakley thanks for the podcast, golden nuggets of information from everyone. Shout out to you, Ramzan. Copeland, thank you here for the first time. See you in the live chat. Thank you so much for being on the live show. Rhodes, what's your final thoughts and how can people find you?
My thoughts are, I think we need to go back to basics. I think we know to go back to the nucleus of society, which is the family unit. We need to build everyone, and whatever a child or a teenager decides, whatever they want to be, or choose to be, Polynesians had it right. Ohana is so important. We embraced everyone in there. It's just we needed to work on ourselves. We need to learn how to communicate better. We need to, especially for our children, right? There's some reason why we had structure and certain pillars in our community, because it created a safe, secure environment for the children should be. Well, that's what it should be. And well-being for the children. Because in those pillars and in those things that we teach at home, the core teaching at home, with the world the way it is right now, boy, we have a lot of work to do in the home. We have a huge battle. But you can find me on TikTok. You can find me under Underground Roads. You can find me on Instagram under Underground Roads. But I'm a huge advocate for the children, and I'm a huge advocate for people being authentic, whoever they want to be. It's all about love. At the end of the day, we love the individual. They have their own journeys. We celebrate them. We want to support them, and so that they can explore and see and find their own potential. But again, we have to go back to basics.
Yeah.
And teach our children, like you said, Will, I think before we entered the room, about our ancestors, right?
Yeah.
Who they were, right? They knew how to survive with just coconuts, water around them, the ocean, just with the natural resources. That's what we need to teach them, some of those skills, the knowledge of who they were. And that's all I have to say.
No, no worries, no worries. Thank you so much, Rose. I always appreciate you having you here tonight. And I see Jeffrey Coakley saying mahalo, interesting discussion. Thank you so much for shout out to you. Here for the first time. Thank you so much. And then I think Tui Bo said priorities in the United States are all out of whack. But yeah, it's rough out here, but that's why we gotta have these type of discussions. But thank you so much for everybody that's watching. I appreciate you guys on the live chat. Thank you so much for your opinions. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you appreciate the content, and also follow all my panel guests. I'm gonna drop their social media information on the description below. You can follow all of them. Don't forget, we do this every single Wednesday. So if you're watching this right now, you can go back to the beginning of the episode and watch the full discussion. We had a great discussion, and also tune in every single Wednesday. We always have a hot topic. We always like to keep it hot on the Cup of Cloud podcast. Sometimes it gets too hot for some people, but we like to keep it hot and have these type of discussions. It's much needed. So all the panel guests, thank you so much for your time. I always appreciate you guys being on here and be part of the conversation. But everybody, you guys have a very blessed night. Peace, y'all. Peace. Good night, y'all.